I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the folks at home. Tonight we have a very special occasion, and I'm going to ask my liaison to the ambulance corps to come up with me. Captain of the ambulance corps. And member Mr. Lizzie, would you come up here, please? I'll turn it over to you for this. The first one, turn it over tonight. Nancy, you have something to say?
Just that we're here because today, Merv Livesey is going to be presented with his life membership certificate for service to the Town of Highlands Volunteer Ambulance Corps for the past 15 years. Is it more than that? You've actually been so for 15 years. Listen, volunteers are the heart of the ambulance corps, and so we thank Merv for 15 years of dedicated service. Jeff's going to take over on the actual presentation from here.
Just on behalf of the community, everybody that you have served with, every captain, every president, all of our members, we'd like to say thank you for your service for 15 years. Appreciate that, Captain. This is just a small token from us to show our appreciation. Thank you. Thank you.
Don't walk away. Yeah, everybody wants a picture. Congratulations, Merv.
Well, we have a second. At the last meeting that the ambulance corps was at, they did announce a few awards, yearly awards, and two that we didn't announce were the President's Awards. And I just want to announce that Jeff Gathers and Speed Harris received the President Award for this year. And the time they put in, you wouldn't believe. So they definitely earned it, and I appreciate all the effort that they put into the ambulance corps, in particular for you guys.
Ladies, we're going to have to get close to each other. And Jeff, maybe shake first hand.
That's like a nice time.
And then maybe Jeff and Bob switch, let Bob shake first hand.
And then,
I'll be right away. Pat, have seven. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for the ambulance corps that came tonight. Appreciate it. I'm sure Merv appreciates it. I do. Thank you. Carry on, and the person that we're going to hire tonight, is that person here?
I know.
Okay, here it is.
She's going to see me as soon as we get the okay. She's going to see me, but as soon as we get the okay.
Okay. I thought we had the okay, huh? From the county?
Yeah, but that is what you have to officially hire.
Oh, we're gonna do that, yeah.
Thank you.
Public comment on agenda items. Does anyone have anything to say on agenda items? No. I have the previous minutes from April the 13th meeting. There was a minor mistake in them, at which, before we, huh? Yeah. No, I know, but it was just on a failed motion, and it's okay. So I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain because I wasn't here, Bob.
I noted that. Communications. I might as well put this right under communications. Jeff Gathers asked if we could add the hiring of an EMT, Jadel Estervine, to the agenda Monday. Diva confirmed that she's eligible for hire. I'll ask a motion to hire EMT Jadil Estervine with the wage in the contract and with the probation noted in the contract. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried, thank you. You have her one more, and you need many, many more.
Yes, we do.
More. Don't have to be an MP, you can be a driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely need help in the ambulance corps. Financial reports, I transferred $74,342 from the consolidated account to the paying account to cover this week's check run. MBP Healthcare, we sent them $43,313 for health insurance. Office of the State Comptroller, we sent $7,530 for court fines and fees. CEJJ for garbage cans and wheels, $3,714. Royal Carding Service for haulage, $3,565. And Vector Solutions, that's training software for EMTs, $2,335. Okay, any questions on the money I sent out? Then we'll have a report from our liaisons, and we'll start off with Councilman Sullivan, since I'm sure he's biting at the bit because he missed
Oh, no.
the last meeting.
I got a really long one, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to look at the camera. I'm polling the people to see how many of them want me to read for a long time. It doesn't look like it, so I may not read everything, but I'm going to start off, all right? Start off with pleasantries. Yesterday, I attended the now annual Woodbury Historical Society gathering. Mark was there. Of 15 different Orange County Historical Societies. And in celebration of the 250th, as always, Ronnie Coffey was there. She's doing a magnificent job as a historian. She's had some interesting displays, and while I was there, I ran into Peter Carroll, Mark Levinsky, along with Alex Pergintes. Mayor DeSalvo was there, but I missed him, but I know he was there. Just a wonderful gathering. The collaborative effort between Woodbury and Highlands is wonderful. They have a lot of good events coming up. And so I also have a little bit of a role in the Fort Montgomery Battle Site Association, and I'm going to read off a few of their things coming up. They're open, I think, Wednesdays to Sundays. They're closed Mondays and Tuesdays. The site is being excavated. Don't panic. I think they have an archaeologist on hand to make it ADA compliant, or try to anyway. So make sure they don't take any cannonballs home without us knowing about it. So on Saturday, May 2nd, from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m., bateaus and 18th century maritime carpentry. I had to look up bateaus. That's like a hand-carved canoe, I guess. So there's a guy that's going to be there. I don't see his name here. Scott Lance, demonstrating shipbuilding skills doing that. And I'm not going to read all of them. I can save some for the next couple meetings. Saturday, May 9th, at 1 p.m., a complex story of Peggy Shippen Arnold. Margaret Arnold, better known by her childhood name as Peggy Shippen, has been portrayed through history as either a totally innocent or scheming mastermind behind Benedict Arnold's treason. So that'll be at 1 p.m. down at the battle site. Saturday, May 23rd from 10 to 4 is 18th Century Games and Toys. I won't go into detail on it. Saturday, June 6th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., Rolling the Dice, a Revolutionary War gaming experience. So I'm going to post these on my Facebook page. If we can put some of them on our page, just so the people know. Peter down at the battle site asked me to share these. I know Mark will share them on the history site. They have all kinds of events leading into October. I'm not going to read them now. Maybe in June I'll read, the stuff that comes after this. So I saw Ronnie Coffey yesterday, and this is good practice for something I'm going to do, and it is a reading of the Declaration of Independence on Saturday, June 27th, at the Highland Falls Library. Time is 11 from 2. But lend your voice to celebration. The Town of Highlands Historical Society is organizing a special event to perform for our community in honor of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence at a gathering on June 27th. So if you're going to attend the rehearsal and be a reader, and you'd have to contact her, I'll give that number in a moment, you need to get there. So from 11 till 12:30, you can practice your 1 or 2 lines, and then there'll be a reading from 1 o'clock until 2 o'clock. Water and snacks will be provided. If you're interested, please call her as soon as possible. 845-446-0400 is the number up in the history thing up in the Village Hall up there. So the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee. I was away for a couple weeks, so I did not participate in Earth Day events here. Celebrate the library. I know it was well attended, and there was a resiliency flood mapping workshop downstairs. That program is an ongoing project attached to Together We Decide, and I'd like to thank Olga and all of the new committee members that she has invited to join the committee. There's a lot of new ones. They're bringing a lot of new energy. Last week at the Park Restaurant, which is open, I don't know the hours, but was Green Drinks, which was basically hosted by Olga, where they presented the Greener Award, which is an annual event, to Carol Spisso on behalf of Vision, who's been doing good work in the community for 25 years. Former Charter Committee member Mindy Kimball was in attendance. She's a humble gal. She did a lot. She was a charter member. She used to come to all the meetings and helped us with a lot of different programs. She came to visit because she's very humble. She wouldn't tell you, but she's one of the first females to graduate from West Point, and they had a little gathering and celebration of those people. DPW. I know Bob and Kelly and Greg had a FEMA meeting this morning. We there? You have one, right? Those meetings are trending to, or tending, what am I trying to say? They're short because, if I'm not mistaken, the FEMA people aren't being paid.
Correct.
So there's not too many people to talk to when you have these things. What, 3 months that's been going on?
Couple of months.
Okay, so I know you have the state people involved in all that. As best as what I know from Greg, Bob will know more about this than I do, but it appears Mine Road will have drainage improvements done by the end of July and be prepared for paving late August, early September. Mine Dock Road will have some structural work done subsequent, so that too can be paved before the end of the season, but there's other work to be done first. And as far as the status of Wyant Road, there were some easements that had to be procured. There's like a $500,000 drainage archway going in there. I don't know where that's at. You probably know a lot more than I do about easements.
We're still waiting on the easements. That's one of the things holding it up.
Easements that have or haven't been procured, I think that's the granddaddy out of all of them. Lindsay McLeod has been at the DPW for over a month now. She has assimilated well and is familiar with most everything up there. In fact, a few weeks ago, we had a seminar by Sims Software. That's a software that the town bought 4 or 5 years ago for about $4,000 to try and help organize matters at the cemetery. So Leslie, Lindsay, Gabby, and Kelly sat in on that seminar. I use the program pretty regularly, and while it's a wonderful program when we got it, there were over 500 graves already there that had to be input when the secretary had time to do so over the years. There's a great deal of data that needs to be imported, and I'm not so sure that the town shouldn't consider a third-party person to do that, because it's going to take like 12 years of people in their spare time to bring it in. The program is wonderful, and there are bits and pieces of information for these respective graves, whether Highland Union, Peacedale. Downstairs in town clerk's office, she has the burial transit permits down there, and you have the deeds, some of which are up there. You have the interment permit, which your funeral home calls and does. There are bits and pieces of information. I'm taking all of it and putting it into Sims, pictorially and otherwise, so you have a click and it's ready to go. When I say I mean Gabby's helping out and Lindsay's been getting started with it, and we only have 2 licenses, right? So it's just you and I. I'm allowing Lindsay to just go ahead and use my login and do it that way. So in regard to Eagle Valley up there, the cemetery, there was some questions about the rules, and we've acted on them a couple times. The most recent ones were in April 2025. They're on the website, and I went through them. Kathy Beach, I believe, is the current de facto leader of what's left of the cemetery committee. I asked her to get the committee together to have a meeting, which we're going to do here at Town Hall. They meet on the second Tuesday of the month, so it'll be May 12th at 7 o'clock. I'm not so sure I'm going to call that a public meeting, but if people are interested in being on that committee, I can put them in touch with Kathy Beach. And there's a lot to talk about. The town board about 3 years ago agreed with Joe DeWitt's observations to apportion an area which has a lot of rock in it to be an area for cremains exclusively. The rules were adopted, like I said, in 2025, and you can do 3 things. You can buy a 4x10 plot for $1,000, 2 4x10 plots for $2,000 side by side, so they're act as one, or we created a cremain section for $500, which those are 3x3. The trouble is, we haven't laid that out yet. There are currently 4 people that we've discovered that have purchased those cremains. Right now, there's no deed or plot purchase data because there is no plot. So we have to have the committee figure that out and go to Sims and have them put it into their software based upon what everybody decides. If you have them all close together and a machine's involved, no one's going to want a machine driving over a bunch of cremains. Maybe there's some roads that have to be added. I don't know. I don't own a cemetery. The committee, I'm going to spearhead them to get the ball rolling on that one. Okay. So I just want, this is going to be probably a sore subject, is the, about 5 years ago, we had people petition for water up at Eagle Valley. I didn't think there was water anywhere. There is water at Highland Union, and there is water at Peacedale. I've seen the spigots at both of them. So about 25 years ago, the town had a grant to drill a bunch of wells up there that were going to become a water system that kind of failed. And one of those wells has water coming out of it all the time. It's artesian. Has a stream coming out that would fill a 5-gallon pail in about 3 minutes, I'd say. It's there. It isn't a big deal to make it so you can walk to it. We don't have to have any storage. We don't have to do anything. If someone wants to go fetch a pail of water, they can. And it's right there. It's free. It's running. I don't see any problem with that if the board happens to think that wouldn't be a bad idea, you know. So even during the drought last year, that thing was running most of the time. This is another controversial subject. That cemetery still has like 300 graves left to be sold and whatnot, but I walked the full 8 acres of it. We're only using 3.5. It goes all the way back about 40 feet within the fence line that West Point has delineating their property. There's a great deal of potential to increase that cemetery someday. It would be at least 7 or 8 years from now before that project would possibly come up. And in Bear Mountain, Mountain is a company I used to work for. Here's the part where I'm gonna get in trouble. Company I used to work for that has 3,000 yards of clean fill that they cannot get rid of. And it would be nice if we could stockpile some of that up at the cemetery. I'm sure Facebook would have all kinds of accusations about me being on the take and stealing fill and everything else, which is a shame, because a hostile environment makes it so that it's not that easy to do something like that. The fill is available if anybody felt like going that route. So I told the guy who was my old boss down there, nothing's happening right now. I don't think there's any fill permits open in the town right at the moment. Greg asked me to make an announcement that during the month of May, when the town is doing work on Mine Road, there are going to be days where they will close the road down, and they'll have to coordinate with the garrison commander in order to be able to work up there safely. I think Gary did the same thing after the flood when they were working up there, you know. And on the dial-a-bus, I have a ridership to date for the month of April, which isn't over yet, 479 riders. That number does not include the cancellations. There's been about 40 cancellations, so it's a pretty good number. And in late September, we have designated 2 people to go for 3 days down to Yonkers to be baitfish certified. Baitfish is this program. The first 2 letters stand for bus accident. I don't remember what the rest of it stands for. Tiffany had that certification. Nobody has it at the moment. I'm a firm believer in redundancy. We're going to have 2 people have it come October 1st, and we get audited next February. We'll be safe with that one. And Kelly and I have been working with a few people in that program to try and keep that bus rolling. So almost done. Water. Last week, we had hydrant flushing was done for 3 days in the town outside the village. Just prior to that was a leak repaired at 14 St. Mark's. I'll get back to that in a moment. Our situation with VRI is working handsomely. I spoke at length today with Dale, a couple of matters of which is, over the years, people were asserting that the town did not have a water tank, and that was the reason for cloudy water. We do in fact have a water tank. It's been there since 1986. It's had a few leaks in it. There is one such leak now, and Dale is getting some numbers from people to have a couple of divers go in and seal it from the inside. They got to disinfect themselves and all that. That tank is due for inspection next year. If they come do this, I'm going to go ahead and tell them after they repair it to recertify it so that we don't have to deal with that. And now for the leak. In the 8 years that I've been doing this, we have had 6 major leaks, all of which have occurred on the copper portion of lines attached to the plastic pipe in the MTB portion of our water system. The plastic pipe itself has not as yet actually cracked apart, but for some reason, maybe because there's no electrical continuity between copper and plastic as there would be with ductile iron pipe, the copper is failing prematurely. Each of these leaks was 20,000 gallons or more per day, and they take a long time to find. The water doesn't always pop out of the ground. So over time, I've come up with a number which we thought was about 75,000 gallons a day as being the expected norm for usage in our water system. That was until St. Mark's. I'm going to get something out of my bag here, and I brought the pipe and the rock that pierced it. It is evidence is what caused that leak, and after March 19th, we were leaking 60,000 gallons a day, and VRI came with sounding detection system. We located the leak and repaired it, and since that time, we are using less than 50,000 gallons a day. That means, I think, because we're going to have the meters calibrated and checked to make sure, I think we've had a 20,000 gallon a day leak inherent ever since I've had this job. Don't worry, Chief, I don't have anything bad in there. So when this copper pipe was installed, this rock, it was, which portion? This portion right here was laying against it like that. That thing was probably leaking 20,000 gallons a day until March 19th when it just opened on up. And it was going into people's houses in that area. And when you go in and check for chlorine or fluorine, that's how you discover that it's us and not groundwater. So I think the new number for us is now like 50,000 gallons a day should be the norm. The water has been such a project because of the negative fund balance, which goes back to administrative errors made long before Kelly was here, and estimates being wrong on the new tank by like $400,000. It never gives us a break. I hope we can go a couple years without any more incidents like this. So, because Ty is about ready to give me an Italian backhand, I'm gonna ask everybody else to do their reports, and I'm gonna do my builder report after they're done. I need a break.
Councilman King, you're on.
Well, good evening, everyone, and good evening, everyone at home. And I'm certainly honored to be able to relieve Councilman, my comrade.
Sully for short, okay?
Councilman Sullivan over here as he takes a much-needed break. But for me, it's only a few notes. First and foremost, if you recall last month, we talked about doing an emergency management meeting on April 24th. It did not occur in the sense that we wanted to do a big community meeting, but it occurred in the sense that myself and Trustee Gargiulo met telephonically to talk about the way ahead. And I say it didn't happen only because our liaison somehow, I don't know if he's sick again or something, but after we had all that good communication right now, it's been not so much. So I'm going to reach out to him again this week.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, but I'm hesitant to say anything because last time when I was a little frustrated, he was actually sick. So I'm just praying that he's not having any issues related to that. So I'll try to track him down. But despite that, what we're going to do going forward is still plan this meeting, because initially he was going to do the coordinations, but I'm not going to wait for that. We're just going to move forward between myself and the trustee there. We've come up with a game plan, and we're going to just put this mark on the wall and get this ball rolling. So, that being said, the good news is that we did meet and we did discuss some things. Secondly, the two proposed dates for May is 22nd of May and the 29th of May, by the way. So put those down on your calendar. If one of those works better than the others, then please let me know. The second thing is, we talked several weeks ago about Juneteenth, and there was a question mark on whether we would have a parade this year. And it must be that the community was watching on TV, because I got some phone calls saying that, yes, we should certainly have the parade, especially because this is a milestone year, our 10th annual Juneteenth celebration here in the town of Highlands. And that's before anybody can hardly spell Juneteenth around here.
I'm having trouble right now.
We were doing that, right? It wasn't a national holiday at that point. And so thankfully, the community has said that, yes, we should do it, and therefore, we officially are on for our 10th annual Juneteenth parade on Saturday, June 20th, 11 a.m. in Highland Falls, New York, starting in the vicinity of South Gate, somewhere down that way, and then moving all the way towards and culminating at the Memorial Park with our flag-raising ceremony. So certainly we'd love to invite everybody to be out for that day, and we certainly still need volunteers to help put this thing on and make it a great celebration and live up to the reputation that we've had, according to Congressman Patrick Maloney. No, it was Ryan, who walked in 2023, I think it was, and said this was the best one in the Hudson Valley region. So let's bring that back. I also had a telephonic meeting with the Orange County Office of the Aging. And this is a great discussion about services and resources that's available to our folks who are getting up there in age. I won't say any names, I won't look anybody's direction. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of resources out there.
What are you looking at me for?
Well, there's resources. There's resources for folks who may need, and it may not just be food insecurities. It could be that as people age, they just sometimes forget to eat. And so now we got agencies out there that would possibly bring food, like it's called Meals on Wheels. And so that's one thing that they shared. I know some people in the community probably taking good advantage of that, and as they should. And then there's other stuff that you may not know about, it could be personal aids, it could be, volunteers coming by to check on folks. So just overall, they're gonna send me a packet and directly to my house to talk about Medicaid and Medicare and those types of things that maybe people need help with. So I'm glad to make that connection with them. We also reignited our special events committee. At one time, the special events committee was responsible for events like the Juneteenth celebration, the Women's History Month celebration, the breast cancer awareness celebration, or breast cancer awareness event. We did a huge one right there in Memorial Park several years ago. And we did Hispanic Heritage 2 or 3 years in a row. And so those things kind of died off as we didn't have any more volunteers to help participate. But the good news there, people are coming out. And so the names of people that I have currently, I want to thank each one of you for raising your hand to say that you would help with these things. Of course, we got Ann Molina, still got Dee Marino that's interested in helping. Then we got Rosie Kilgore, who was a big instrument, very instrumental in the Hispanic Heritage programs we've done in the past. We got a young lady that I met over at O'Neill High School as one of the staff members there, Aaliyah Simmons Cameron, that is now wanting to participate. And of course, appreciate the trustee for saying that you would help in any way that you could, and then myself is on there too. So that's about 6 people so far. A lot of room for folks who want to help out. It's just a matter of all of us saying we'll do a little bit to make it a less effort for everyone, right? And so a little bit goes a long way. And we conclude with Hope Rocks, June 6th. Hope Rocks, Community Day focused on mental health and substance abuse education on the grounds of Holy Innocents Church at 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Subject to any questions, I yield the remainder of my time to my colleagues to the left.
Before we go all the way over to the left, Jeff, before you leave us, I sent out 4 RFPs for the brickwork in front of the building. I got no response, none. I think it would be easier to build the whole building, knock it all down and build the whole building up to get somebody in there.
Yeah.
But the way it stands right now, since I got sent those 4 out, if you can find anybody with insurance, liability insurance, get a price from them and we'll go ahead and get it done. And the word, and I think you gave me the word cosmetic. We don't need that whole column, because that's, as my colleague over on the right told me, that the cinder blocks are taking care of all the weight. It's the bricks are just ornamental. That's it. Okay. Okay. And Richie, you mentioned what's his name might be interested.
Can I say his name?
Yeah, sure.
Carl Meyer.
Carl, yeah.
And as per our procurement policy, since you had 4 rejections, I think you're there with anybody that gives you a decent number. Is that
Exactly.
correct? I mean,
Okay.
a rejection is basically 1 of 3 people putting in, so you had 4 people not put in, which means they kind of did put in my view,
Yeah, if you can't get credible responses, you can move forward with
Good.
credible.
Good. Because it's like 2 years now or so, right, Jeff? Somewhere around there?
Yeah.
If you ladies from the ambulance corps would like to leave, you most certainly can.
Or stay.
Or stay. You can stay. Learn about your town and government. It's up to you, girls.
Make a run for it.
There.
But thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your service, ladies.
Councilman Leahy.
Hello, everybody. So for the rec department, all the spring sports are going. Lacrosse
softball, baseball, coach pitch, t-ball, lacrosse. Stop by any of the fields if they're playing to support the kids. Thank you to Aaron Falk for securing a grant from DUSA for the softball equipment for 2 teams this year. He was able to throw out all the old equipment from the storm that got flooded. He got a $2,000 grant from the West Point Spouses Club for the summer rec department, for the summer rec program. The signups for summer rec are right now. I saw an email between Aaron and Jen. Are we in charge of who's in charge of getting quotes for the work to be done at the pool shed?
The electric.
The electric.
I have to look at the contract. I believe the village is, but I'm not sure. I have the contract down in my office.
We operated, they own it.
Huh?
We operated, they own it. Right, we buy the chemicals and that stuff,
Yeah.
but they take care of the infrastructure,
Okay.
I think.
Yes.
If I may, we had gotten a couple of quotes with, when Tim Connolly was alive, we had gotten a quote from him, we got a quote from Perillo. Tim Connolly's sons aren't licensed electricians, so we had to kind of negate that one. Aaron took the lead on that, he got the quote from Perillo.
Okay.
So we just said to, and you saw the email too, I said, Aaron, if you want to get a couple more quotes, we'll do it. Some of the scope of work that Perillo wanted, I was concerned about with, compromising the cement. He did say it was on the outside. But there was another where Tim gave the quote, it was from the bathhouse to the lifeguard shed. And it's important to be there. I mean, we've talked about this for years and years. If you want us to get the quotes, absolutely, but Aaron had taken the lead on that, that's why.
I'll talk to Aaron about it. I'll go over the contract, and I'm 90% sure that it's up to the village on the infrastructure.
Yeah, let us know. We'll do whatever we need to do.
We could just work together to get it. Summer will be here, hopefully, before we know it.
We've been talking about this for years and years. I'd love to get it done.
That's really all I have. I'd have a comment for the end. The village, if the village is gonna go forward with going through with their own building department, no dissatisfaction has been presented to this board. Ever, at least since January, since I've been a councilman. And I think everybody ran to save the community money. In my opinion, that is adding more expense for, I mean, what would the purpose of this be? Is my question to the village. I mean, it doesn't have to be answered now, but for people sitting at home that a budget got passed at the village while they have that service that they get a great deal with the service they're getting now, it's pretty unfair to the building department now that's here. That's all I have to say.
Councilwoman Sporvet.
Okay, so continuing with building matters, so Zoning Board of Appeals met on the 15th of April. I missed that. They had the Key Bank Building, 195 Main Street. Rick Minicozy was there to present that. And he was resolved enough with things that they put him on for a public hearing May 20th. So the next Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, May 20th, will have 195 Main Street on the agenda for a public hearing. That's everything with Zoning Board. Consolidated Planning Board met on the 16th, and most of what took up the meeting was the cannabis processing facility that the folks who are at Rockwell's Automotive, right, trying to put in there. There was a lot of discussion at at the meeting. Not a lot of enthusiasm from folks who came out for that, but nothing was resolved at that time. It continues to remain. Discussion will be taken up again at their next meeting, which would be then on the 21st. Will they happen on the same week? Sorry.
Yes, 21st.
Yes, for the 21st at 7 PM. So discussion will continue about the processing facility there. They had a couple of other things that were on the planning board agenda at the last meeting. One was MJRM Management at 441 Main Street, which is the building to the left of what's now Bean and Barrel, right? So he wants to add a third floor, addition of a floor and apartments to the existing building there, which is in the B1 zone. I think what everyone is kind of finding out, Harvey was telling me that the parking is what's driving, right? What happens with everything back there. And there hasn't been a lot of change of ownership with that whole space in the back. So I think it's kind of untangling who belongs to what space, and there are easements, and because the senior center's back there. So the senior center, and then that whole new space that's going to go in from Bean and Barrel or Park Restaurant around to Shades, and what's going to anchor that corner. So there's still a lot of puzzle pieces that have to be figured out there. So the planning board is continuing to work with the applicant. It's a New York forward project, and the applicant is adding additional residential apartments over existing commercial space. They will hold a public hearing at the May meeting of Consolidated Planning Board. So that's on there. HF Main Street Real Estate, so 479 Main Street and surrounding lots, which is the lot that is next to the old Shades, right? The lot that has been there for a while. Mixed-use hotel currently grandfathered in the B3 zone. They had a request to modify the conditions of approval. This is the proposed hotel between Drew and Perry Avenue on Main Street. The applicant requires additional parking for his site, and the approval called for that to be in place prior to the building inspector's signature on the site plan. At the request of the applicant, after consultation with the village council and the board, the requirement is still in place, but is now required prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So instead of signing out, having that parking requirement to even get started, they're going to move that to when they go to get certificate of occupancy. And that is everything that was on planning, zoning, and then a couple of other things. Remember, Highlands Together We Decide still has, you have the opportunity to vote on community projects. Collected, do we have it in Town Hall here too? Is there collection? Town Hall, Village Hall, and the library. There Bean and Barrel may also have a collection spot, right, I think. But we'd love to hear your thoughts on projects that would benefit the community here. Second Chances is having a bake sale this Saturday in front of the library from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and donations will benefit, so Second Chances benefit the purchase of bike helmets to keep children's skulls safe when they're out on their bikes or whatever else, scooters and whatever else they're riding. So come by the library on Saturday to pick something up there. And I've got no more paper, so I'm done.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Chief, you have something? You do not, huh? Kelly, do you have anything? I have something just small. The last meeting, not a meeting before, we had the Bagel Cafe here, Mrs. Yahtzee, and if anyone's driven by there lately, it's still an empty building with the windows blocked, but it looks a hell of a lot better than it ever did. It looks good. They did everything that the building inspector asked them to do. So we're pretty well settled with the Bagel Cafe. My next project is going to be Mine Dock Road. That's going to be much bigger than the Bagel Cafe was, but there's just a lot that needs to be done along Mine Dock Road, and we got to start pushing to get it done. I mean, you got a burned-out building, a building that's falling down, a building that's half-built, and somebody's got a bunch of junk under the overpass. There's a lot to be done down in there, so we'll be talking, I'll be talking, you can help me out.
No, I agree with you. Justin can correct me on this. I want people to know, suppose we said we're gonna condemn all those buildings. Janie Meehan's the one that's occupied, that's the only one. Let's go tear them down. Probably be about 100 grand to do all that. Where's the money coming from? Us, okay? And those will be empty lots. They'll be, the county will make us whole at some point in the future. With the amount of money those lots would cost with that type of investment, I'm not so sure you're gonna attract somebody. I would like to do something I've never done on this board. All I've done is put out fires. I'd like to be ingenious. There's no water down there. If you could get a developer to come in and do all that and meet him halfway with the cost of extending a water main down there, I think that would be, I'd like to do something like that and feel good about it. Because the town did a study back in 1985 declaring that place to have the blight, and it still has a blight, nothing changed, you know, which is a shame. So I'm with you on that whole thing, and it's unfortunate. There was a thing on Facebook where somebody posted about it, and it's decrepit and all that. I was like, if you're a building inspector and Channel 7 sends 7 on your side to keep you in your house when it's red tagged, and then you die and your daughter dies, go down and try and force that sometime. That's not that easy. These things take time.
Yeah.
And it's time at this point, you know, so.
Yeah, and as far as the water getting down there, if you remember, John Rodway said he'd be willing to give us an easement through his property, from the top through his property. We have to make a concession to him to get him water, but that's no big deal. They're going right next to it.
I think this can be worked out.
Yeah.
That's the only place left, and it's in the water district. And, you know, we've had people say, why am I paying taxes but I don't have water? There's not anything for me to tie into. You can't have a water main financed unless you're in a water district. Some things get done right away, other things take time. That's the last one, and the exception will be the sewer plant, because Jeffrey Provan has it from the backside. He has public water. So if we get down to the lot you're talking about, the sewer plant's down the road, it'd be nice to get it there too. We'll see how that goes, you know, so good job.
Okay.
I have a little something more to say when you're done.
Okay, yes, carry on.
No, so, this is gonna take about 5 minutes. There's some village board members here. It is not meant to be hostile. This is not my first rodeo, but it is my last rodeo. I have 2.5 years left. I belong to no political party, and I don't subscribe to the mindset of any particular group. So I'm kind of annoying to a lot of people in that way, but, so I'm gonna read a little bit about the building department. Presuming the village budget is adopted, which I believe that it is, I'd like to read a little bit about the history of building in this building. So back around 1997, Joe D'Onofrio was supervisor and mayor at the same time. During that time, the zoning board of appeals became combined. That was the first one to become combined besides ambulance and recreation and the courts. Fire departments still aren't combined. I was the chairman of the zoning board for a short period of time. back in the late 90s. There were 7 members, and I was on that board. Next, the town board had its own building department, which was part-time, and the village had its own building inspector, who was full-time. That was Henry Woodruff there and Mary Therese here. The village building inspector retired, and the village hired Seth Armstrong to be their building inspector somewhere around 2005. At that time, the village had their own planning board, and the town had their own planning board. So when the building department became a combined service, they had Seth Armstrong, they had another part-timer, and they had a part-time secretary who I believe was Jean Tolman, who also worked for the assessor at that time. So although the planning boards were not combined at that time, if someone walked into town hall with a set of plans for a village matter, you could get total service by walking into the building department, which by the way is on the first floor, and in the event you need to go see Kelly on the second floor, we have an elevator making us ADA compliant for that trip. Time evolved, Seth was replaced by another building inspector who scored high on a test. That building inspector moved on sometime around 2013. Larry Marshall, who was well-liked, was here. I believe he's a highway superintendent out in Maybrook. And then after that, when I started this job, was Bruce Chorlinger was here, who had a full-time assistant building inspector, Kim, and a part-time secretary. The secretary reduced her hours to only 8 hours a week. The phone wasn't being answered. People were complaining that they didn't have access to the building department, so the town made the decision to go to a full-time administrative assistant. She has her notary certification. She also has a digitizer down there which can copy plans digitally and print out in full color 48 by 36. That's the type of service you get down there. Although she is a building department administrative assistant, she also serves the role of serving the planning board and the zoning board and disseminating data, whether the matter is a village matter or a town matter. Quick digression, the planning board became combined somewhere around 2017. I wasn't around here at that time. COVID came. Bruce gave us 4 days' notice and moved on. We hired John Zajac, who was here for a month, and he moved on. And we were very fortunate to have Philip Hannawald as a second full-time building inspector when John Zajac left. Philip was baptized by fire. Philip needed an assistant. We took the people off the civil service list and interviewed them. Most of them were nothing shy of dismal. So we decided to go to the private sector using Langton Tully, doing about a quarter of the services with a guy named Andrew, which included fire inspections and some operating permits. Whether you like it or not, fire inspections are the law, okay? Because of the shortage of building inspectors, the person Langton Tully had took a job in Goshen in the public sector, a job Philip Hannawald could have had for $25,000 more a year than staying here, but he chose to stay here. I hear a lot of people complaining about both me and Philip, and I have to tell you, while sometimes I wish he made my life easier in all of my pursuits, I have never found him to be in error on any interpretation of a matter before him. The village has a code which they change about every year or two. We enforce what they change. So a movement was made to get Philip a part-time helper. We have gone through 7 of them. Some of them have been given a dispensation by the county in the state to go to full-time jobs without taking a test. That's why we've lost some people. Ken, if I forget his name, he was here, whatever.
Betts.
What was his name?
Betts.
Betts. He was great. That's what happened to him. He's working full-time in Newburgh now. Almost done. Last year, I took and became a code enforcement certified official myself. I'm certified. I don't practice locally, obviously I can't. And our current part-time building inspector took that same course with me and is working part-time 20 hours a week. With this whole occupancy tax matter, one of the reasons I was ambivalent to move on it is because I recognize it would introduce a greater need for input on the part of town doing inspections and other matters. The software company the town hired last meeting, I was at that seminar, they potentially came up with currently 75 properties in the village of Highland Falls that are currently operating short-term rentals, yet they go undiscovered and untaxed. By the way, neither the village nor the town currently has a short-term rental law, to my knowledge. So I approached James, our part-time guy, and asked him if he would go to full-time, because I suspected with the short-term rental laws, we would need to hire 2 full-time building inspectors to serve Highland Falls and Fort Montgomery. James agreed to do so at the end of this year. And town and village have an agreement with the building department. In that agreement, it basically expresses that if one side is dissatisfied with the other, they are to communicate and perhaps exercise their options. To date, I haven't had anybody from the village board communicate with me on this matter. I'm not mad, I'm just stating what's happened. And if they've communicated with Bob or Justin or Kelly or anybody else, I'm unaware of it. So, like I said, I'm not angry. Obviously, the town will have to make some adjustments in our building department. This budget season, as a village of Highland Falls, represent about 75% of our work. For those who are dissatisfied with the work of the building department, which has been spearheaded by me for the last 8 years, I invite you to see the sanitation adjustments made in the last year with the enforcement, the process to adjudicate. If you want to tear a house down, obviously has hard obstacles. It would be nice to tear it down the very next day if we could. Those obstacles present the problem. Philip and Justin consult, and we address it the way we see in a professional matter. On a matter of Schneider Avenue with the chickens and the roosters, Philip was out with an ailment last year for about 2 months. During that time, I filled in for him. And it was me that read the code in the village of Highland Falls, where it says in there clearly that if you have anything other than a dog or a cat, that it's up to the village board to make that decision. I'm glad that that information was brought forward. I'm sorry, I understand the rooster has not been removed yet for whatever reason. I'm sorry that happened, but at least we brought those laws forward, letting the village know what's going on. I have as much interest as anybody else in the well-being of Highland Falls. I really do. Over a quarter century, I've been involved with public service. It's a never-ending matter to blame town operations when things aren't going well, and I stand before all of you and say the building department has been operating banner for the last 8 years and prior. A couple of numbers for you. All right, so I know the village has projected $90,000 for equipment and a salary and $150,000 in revenue. Last year, our expenses were $142,000. Our revenue was $121,000. This year, what we projected in the budget was there's $162,000, so Ken is, James is down there part-time, and we projected only $76,000 in revenue this year based upon the projects we thought would start. So I hope the $150,000 comes true. I think it's ambitious. All right, so almost done. The town has a program which is called IPS, which costs us significant money every year to track building matters in both the village and the village outside the town. The building department has a car. We have Gabrielle full-time, who, as I stated before, is associated with the building department, but not necessarily the planning board or the zoning board of appeals, though she serves that role well. They don't really have a secretary. Gabrielle has sort of done that. So if an applicant comes in with a set of plans that's in the village of Highland Falls to go before the planning board or the zoning board, as a general rule, those matters are first looked over by the building inspector, who decides what's missing and what direction it needs to go. I hope that the village has incorporated that into their estimates for having their own building inspector and building department. As far as I'm concerned, if someone comes in with a set of village plans, they need to go to Village Hall first. And in closing, there may have been things I have done leading to the building department being as it is now. One thing I never did was allow politics to infiltrate the work in that department. And that's what I got to say about that.
Thank you. Town board, any comments, sir? No comments? General business, I have none.
How could you after me?
That's amazing. Public comment. Anybody, anything? No? Okay, then I'll make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss highway personnel and equipment.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will not be returning here after the executive session.